But hey, we're gathered here together to have a little sharing moment as a community, as a tribe, and I'm so excited and honored to have you all join me. And just so you know, we're recording this session, so but I will pause the recording at the end of my lesson and meditation, and we can have a conversation if anybody has any questions. And we won't record that part, so you can feel free to, whatever, speak your mind. Maybe not. I don't know. Sam, don't speak your mind. Anyway, welcome. Happy Saturday. It's Saturday where I am. I think it's Saturday where everybody is, but the time zones are wonky. 8 a.m. here on the west coast of the U.S., and as I see everybody else, some people are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and some of us are just finishing our first cup of coffee. So anyway, so welcome. I really, my intention for this session was to have a gathering, which is an intention that we're going to continue on into the new year, a gathering of the tribe with some lessons and some meditations and some offerings to come together. Whether you're part of the SVMT method or whether you're part of our training in sound and vibration, whether you're a mindfulness practitioner, whether you're just an observer who's here to check out all these amazing souls who come together, one of our core needs, and we're going to talk about core needs in a little bit, is the need for community, the need for connection. And it's difficult to find connection of like-minded healers, if you will, people who work in this space. And we kind of, in some of our communities, we feel isolated because there are not a whole lot of people doing what we're doing. And sometimes those people in our community just don't resonate with us, right? So to have like-minded people come together and have a community across the globe, it helps us have a solid foundation to recognize that we're not on this journey alone, that there are people I can reach out to and just hear what they have to say, or just observe or listen to a meditation or discover something new. That is our biggest intention as a school, as a community, is to build a global community. And as we continue to grow and thrive, it just warms my heart to see that intention that we set so many years ago come together. And now, just right here on this Saturday morning, seeing all these little squares with all your faces in them is like, look at that. If you build it, they will come. And so thank you guys for coming. And I know that there are also some that weren't able to join this morning, but as I said, we're recording this and we'll share. So I know you all know me, but hey, I'm Coach Bill, founder, senior director at Meditate School of Mindfulness and Sound. And I'm so honored to be able to share this time with you. For those of you that have been connecting with me over the past couple weeks, I've been suffering with a little bug, so I have a little bit of a stuffy head, so maybe my voice isn't as smooth as it usually is, but that's okay. I'm still going to get the message out there, and that's what matters. The message matters more than the delivery. I don't know. It's kind of a 50-50 thing. So I'm going to share my message, and it's something I've been working on for everything I work on is something I've been working on for years, but the specifics of this is really to recognize, again, in that in-between state between Christmas and New Year and all the other holidays that we celebrate, we're also at this point we're about to turn the page into the next chapter. I've always, not always, but once I figured out my path, I recognized and started defining every single year as a chapter. And when I started leaning into that recognition that I'm about to turn the page and write a new chapter, and I realized how often in my life, how many chapters I allowed somebody else to write, how many chapters I allowed somebody else to define what my life was about. And then when I finally took control and decided that I am the creator of my life and the creator of my story, that gave me such passion for the new year. Not to set a New Year's resolution or not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but to recognize that, okay, maybe this year wasn't the best chapter in my life. But I know with every chapter that I write, there's a theme. There's underlying suffering, and there's great joy. With every year we encounter new things, we meet new people, Hopefully, we learn new lessons and we pick up a lot of baggage. So, as we turn the page, we can sit and reflect and say, well, what is it do I want to take from this year into the next? What is it I want to bring from my past into the present? And that's what my message is really about today. So, I invite you to just sit for a moment wherever you are and open your heart with a bit of gratitude for the community that's come together here, and take in a nice deep breath and exhale nice and slow. And as I share my message, remember this is my message. It doesn't mean everything I say should resonate with you. If it does, great. If it doesn't, hey, you guys learned something new about me. So, my chapter, the chapter that I'm writing next, well, I haven't started it yet because it doesn't start, but I have themed it, is called The Ripple of Love. And I recognize that one of the first lessons that I taught when I was starting to study mindfulness was that to truly find peace in our lives, we need to nurture the seeds of intention that rest in our hearts. Living a life of intention is an ongoing theme in every lesson that we teach, from sound to vibration to meditation and mindfulness to whatever. Intention is so important. The intentions that we tend to focus on, of gratefulness and kindness and curiosity and forgiveness and compassion and faith and all those different things. There's others, but as we begin to work, there are signs that point us to the biggest truth of all, to something that all of our intentions are based on. It's the foundation from which we move forward, and that's love. Love in so many different ways is defined differently. Sometimes it's a verb, sometimes it's a noun. But when I started practicing and leaning into the practice of love, I recognized it was something that wasn't out there. It was something that was in here. And if we pause long enough in our busy life and turn our attention inward, there's a message that says we're all connected in some way or another. We recognize that there is a oneness, and the foundation of this oneness is love. Now, I know that can be challenged, and I know that seems difficult when we're confronting some of the things that are going on in our lives and in the world, but the truth is it's there. Our society has kind of taught us to resist this truth. It's easy to fall into the messages of anger and hate and division and fear, but they don't align with our heart. They don't align with our heartfelt truth. If we're living a life stuck on division or fear, then guess what? We're suffering. But we do have an opportunity to recover from those teachings. We have an opportunity to resist those lessons. We have an opportunity to lift ourselves up and recognize that even though at times I may doubt it, everyone is made of love. That's the foundation and the core of who everyone is. Some people just forget to practice it. Some people believe these stories that I need to do these things to be worthy of it. As I started to awaken to this message, I had my own doubts. I still have my doubts. As I reflected on my own struggles, I could find proof to justify my doubt. My heart resisted that resistance, though. I've said it many times. I was raised by a narcissistic stepdad who tried to do all that he could to make me someone else. I felt disconnected from what he was telling me. So, how could I look at this person and see that they're coming from a place of love? How can that be true? Again, I struggle with this, but as I've progressed in my practice, I've reflected deeply on his actions. I felt and still feel the resistance in parts of me, but that nagging message kept coming back. Is there love there? Then something amazing happened in my practice. I started to align with the teachings of forgiveness. Once I moved into the energy of forgiveness, I began to realize in his skewed, somewhat bigoted way, he was trying to protect me from what he thought were bad choices. I could hear my heart saying, maybe, just maybe, his actions came from a place of love in his mind. I don't know. But we do know perspective is everything. And the perspective of someone's beliefs skew their intentions to justify their actions and to take actions that somebody else might seem as hateful. But was it loving? Could the message that was shouted at me that said, "I'm doing this for your own good," or "one day you'll see the truth," well, that wasn't for me, but that was for him. So if I could settle into that realization, perhaps I could find the path to forgiveness. And that kind of cracked the door open to let the light in. Look, not to get too religious, but didn't Jesus say, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do"? How curious and confounding, because I built this whole story around the pain and the trauma that this caused me. The story that this guy was a hateful, bigoted narcissist. But that was my perspective, right? Again, I became curious and I started to listen. I thought I had it all figured out, and for decades I carried this chip on my shoulder. But when I became curious, it awakened me to deeper levels of curiosity that made me realize that, yeah, I have it all figured out. But I've done so in a way that aligns with the great protector within me. I've allowed my perspective to perhaps skew the perception of the truth. We could go round and round on this, and that's not what this is about. But as I've awakened to the practice of mindful curiosity, I realize that I'm not quite sure. As I look at the world and the people I encounter and the things going on, I'm not quite sure what to do with people. I don't have anybody figured out. I barely have myself figured out. I have no idea. None of us have any idea what make people believe the things that they do, to take actions that seem to us to go against their own good, to always be looking for things to be angry and hateful about. It's curious. It's head-scratching. I don't know how people do it. But with curiosity, I can finally see that with a clear lens, people are going through their life based on their own life story. And so my clear lens now is to be open to learn about people. I've always wanted to learn about people, but I always put it through this lens of my perception. So as I'm watching and listening and paying attention to what's going on in the world, I see over and over and over again, people who make the oddest choices. Look, politics is an easy prime example. Can people not see that those people who are running for office these days are generally the worst amongst us? They all seem to be focused on fear and division and anger. I don't care what side you're on. We can see these different perceptions and say, is this really the best we have? Seriously, prove me wrong. I'm open to listening, but can we really say the people we end up voting for are the best amongst us? That's a whole nother conversation. I don't know what to do with religion. I love so many aspects of, I wrote it in my book, I found my religion. One of the most beautiful, cherished memories I have of my childhood is going to church with my grandmother. She was Catholic, and just that pomp and ceremony and the music, and I just love that. But then when that person stands up there and preaches, I'm like, what? There's so much hypocrisy and so much expectation and so many rules. And truly, when you get to the foundation of it, so much division. If you're not conforming to Christianity, then you're working for the devil. If you're not Muslim, then you're an infidel. If you don't follow the book, then you're not worthy. The oddest thing about politics and religion is the definition of the things that are expected to reach success, or the rules you have to follow to be worthy. They come up with these rules and these laws from which we need to make fit their definition of worthiness, and then they challenge it. Is it true? Do you really believe? How many things do I need to do to be worthy of love? And when we don't fit that mold, we suffer. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I don't know much, but I do know that there's a conspiracy of division. There's a movement of anger and hate. And I've realized that these people are actually power brokers. They're all about having power over rather than power with. And this is where we turn the page. Because that's the opposite of oneness. To me, that's the antithesis of love. Their love is based on some false pretense that love is something that we must seek out and strive for. But I found the truth, and I'm going to preach this. And that truth is that love is something that we are. It's not something we need to go out and seek. It's something we need to lean into and practice, because the love of our hearts is there. It's always been there, and it will always be there. And we just sometimes, in fact, most of the time, are focused on the wrong thing. Love is ours, and I'm ready. I am ready to create a movement around this message that love is ours. It's ours to give, it's ours to share, it's ours to take, it's ours. I can honestly say it's taken me a long time to get here. I'm still sometimes struggling with this, as I said before. Honestly, I've made choices that at times seemed counterintuitive, were definitely counterproductive, and at times were self-sabotaging. But as I look back, I realize I was in survival mode. My deepest core needs weren't being met. I lacked community. I lacked confidence. And I seemed, to me, to be lacking in love. So I floundered. It's amazing how these things work. But at one of the most difficult times in my life, a path appeared before me, and I saw it clearly. I saw that path, and I reflected on it, and I realized I have a choice. There's a fork in the road before me, and I could continue to flounder and worry and chase success, and continue to allow others to define me, or I could choose a different path. And for me, it took a leap of faith. It took me setting some serious boundaries for myself and for the people in my life. It forced me to let go of so many labels that were put on me and that I put on myself, and it moved me to let go of some people in my life who I realized weren't really that beneficial to me. It took some time, but then I found a new meaning in life. I truly did find love within myself. Not the love that the preachers told me about, or the teachers that told me I needed to do, or those people who brought me up that said these are the things you need to do to be love. Not one that was outside somewhere, but the message of love that was right here in my heart. And it is my message. It wasn't and isn't foreign to me. It's been there all along. And once I looked at that, I began to walk in that truth. I started to realize that I may not know much, but I do know love. My authentic, heartfelt love. It's there. And there was an awakening. And again, I'm challenged daily in this, but I know love. And in this knowing, I know exactly what to do with it. Here's the thing I say now. Love. I understand that. Everybody can. If we turn off those power brokers who are seeking to control love, we see that love is uncontrollable. We tap into that light and we understand love. We do. This is a love that isn't defined by anyone else. It's ours, and we should own it. It's authentic, and it's been waiting. And it is the truth, and I believe it is the foundation of our life. And as everyone's always looking for the meaning of life, there it is. It's authentic. And authentic love isn't meant to be held back. It's not given only when all the conditions are met. Love is meant to be given unconditionally. Love is meant to be received carefully. Love is meant to be protected with healthy boundaries. But love is ours to give. First, to ourselves. That might be the most difficult in a lot of instances, to love yourself. Then it's meant to be given to everyone we know, then to those we might not know, and then to all of humanity and all of nature and all of everything. Because by the time we get there, we've been practicing it so much that we are this energy of love. There's no good book required. There's no preacher needed. There's no politician or celebrity that needs to tell me what I need to do. It's there. It's mine. It's yours. In the years of my practice, it's become the foundation upon which my spiritual practice is built. But remember, it's a practice. It's a practice that I sometimes falter in. I do make mistakes, but I come back to it. I pick myself up and learn from it. Loving this way, living a life of love this way, is perfectly simple, but entirely difficult. It's contradicting, right? It's difficult because we tend to put too much pressure on it. We tend to say, am I loving perfectly? Well, what is that? We need to see the simplicity of it. And simple act of kindness. A simple act of kindness can be a perfect action of love, because in and of itself is a complete. Just a simple act of saying good morning to someone, to opening the door for someone, to reaching out and saying hello. If you expect some kind of return or reward, then your kindness has conditions. That's more of an investment. But the seeds of kindness and love are within us. But it's up to us to practice. It's in our nature to be kind beings. But we often practice things that overshadow it, like impatience and anger and frustration and doubt. Don't believe me in this? Ask yourself, what would most people do if a bird flew into the house? We do all that we can to let it out, right? We'd open the windows and the doors and help guide that bird out. And that just seems like a logical thing to do. It seems like a small little thing to do. But this is exactly what's needed. It's exactly what's needed by the bird in that precise moment, and the bird really doesn't even know that that's what it needs. There's nothing we need to add to it, nothing we need to take from it. We just let the bird out. We don't expect the bird to do anything more than go on its way in life. It's unconditional. We do this for the bird, but we don't do it for others. We set these expectations and we put these limitations and beliefs on, well, if I do this for you, what am I going to get in return? But that bird didn't give us anything in return except that freedom, because that's love and kindness. By becoming aware of this and practicing kindness in that way, it might seem like a small thing in life, but we find that when we do this over and over and over again, we're practicing love. And if it becomes an automatic thing to do in the small way, then it becomes easier to do in big ways. If we have no problem sharing an unconditional act of love with the bird, why do we find it so difficult to do it for others? So it's up to us. It's up to us to remove our need to place conditions on our love, to just be kind. And if that kindness isn't returned, it's okay. If it is, great. Because it's a practice for ourselves. We're working on ourselves by practicing kindness. Nothing is required in return. But that energy feeds itself, because what we practice grows stronger. So with all of this message, I've been reflecting on where we are at the end of 2024 as a society as a whole. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go into how the world is right now. But as I speak with so many students and teachers across the world, there's this underlying negativity that seems to be percolating. Despite so many beautiful things that are happening every single day, there's this sense of doubt about the future. Hitting back into the lessons of politics, I believe there's a concerted effort by so many in power to build this division and fuel the flames of hatred, not just in this country, but across the globe. There's so much tension. It's as if there's a powder keg waiting for the fuse to be ignited. But as we lean into our practice and we work to align with the energy of love, it does seem as if we're up against the world. But I turn back to the fact and the truth that it only seems so because the power seekers, those in charge, are sucking up all the energy. They're taking up all the space. They're the ones who are getting all the attention in the media, in our lives, because our attention is drawn to it. Maybe not purposefully, but through what we're focused and forced to watch and to hear and to see and to ultimately feel, because everything we watch, see, hear, and listen to is like food, spiritual food, and it's either healthy or unhealthy. So what do we do? Here's the thing. Resist. How do we resist? By practicing love, by opening the door and letting the bird out, by saying kind words, by offering a smile, by living a life of love. Even if we had a year filled with pain and suffering, I'll bet there were moments of joy. And if we take stock of that, we see them. Even if we're deep in the flow of grief, there's still love there. Yes, the world may seem out of balance, but there are so many things to celebrate. Community, connection, hope. As we come to the end of this year, as I said before, I'm called to turn the page, to release the things that don't serve me and to create space for what's to come. Because if I keep holding on to the things that don't serve me, there's no space. Similarly to the airways and the messages that we're receiving, there's no space for the messages of love. There are so many things I can't change, but I can let go of putting my energy into the things I can change. I can put my energy into things I can change and let go of the things that I can't through acceptance. In my practice and in my tribe, I lean into all of the connections that we've built and I nurture those. And I find such joy in that. Through this, I'm called to bring about a gathering of energy, a resistance, if you will. This is the message. A resistance built on the foundation of love. And with this energy, we can send it out in ripples all across the world. This love resistance isn't soft and squishy. I believe it's strong and powerful. It doesn't mean we let people walk all over us. That's what I mean by having healthy boundaries. It means we set our boundaries and we resist when those boundaries are crossed. It means we stand up for those who may need our support. We offer compassion for those who are suffering. We speak out at every moment in defense of those who may be seen as less than or who can't speak for themselves. And we walk in love and we offer kindness. How do we lift ourselves up when confronted with anger and hatred? We lift ourselves up with love. How do we hold space for those who are suffering from disease and depression and addiction and pain and suffering? Not with a need to fix them. That's ego. No, we do it with love. How can we walk in love in the face of those who might not understand our work or who deny the truth or reject our message? With love. I've said it so many times and I'll say it so many more. I don't know much, but one thing I do know, love. And with that love, I know I can change the world. By myself, I can change my world. But as a movement, as we come together as a community, with love, we can change the world. I see it now, that this is how I want to show up in 2025. This is how I plan to show up for my tribe. And this is how I plan to show up for myself. And there's a big challenge there for me, to show up for myself, because I'm really good at showing up for others. Most of us aren't so good at showing up for ourselves. We can turn the page. And to do so, I'm going to ask you to reflect on these 4 questions. And then we're going to finish with an intention. The first one: what lessons do you want to carry forward with you from this year? What baggage do you want to leave behind? Who do you want to show up for in 2025? And how are you going to show up? I'll put these questions on the feed and we'll come back to it. And I'll add in, what if how you showed up was all about love? There's an opportunity waiting for us. We can take a giant leap forward and grab the power of love and amplify it. Because once we do, we know how resonance works, that the strongest vibration has the potential to lift and align every other vibration. And if we agree that every person possesses the energy of love, then our love has the potential to ignite their love, and so on, and so on, and those ripples spread out. We can sit around and wait for change. We can wait for the phone to ring, or the pot to boil, or the bus to come. As Dr. Seuss says, the waiting game. It's so easy. We can wait until the next election, or the next prayer, or the next good book. We can wait, and wait, and wait. And then next year at this time, we'll be sitting at the end of 2025 wishing things were different again. We can be the change. I took a business class once, and the one thing that somebody said is you got to have hope, but hope isn't a good enough business plan because you have to put energy behind that hope. Similarly with intention. We can talk about intention till the cows come home, and I can put a word to my intention for the day, but if I don't take action, then it's just a word. For me, I plan to activate my highest vibration over and over and over again and do the work that I need to do to be the light, to ignite the flames of love, to be the energy of transformation. And if people get it, yay. If they don't, I move on. I don't know much about politics or religion or philosophy and such, but I can tell you what I do know. I know love. And knowing love in an open-hearted, unconditional way, it allows me to remember that love isn't meant to be boxed in by rules. I've been there. Love isn't supposed to be filled with expectations or conditions. We've all done that. Love is meant to be shared, even with those who challenge us. Love is meant to be shared unconditionally. Love is meant to be given gracefully. Love is meant to be protected within our healthy boundaries. And love is who I am. I am love. And I can finally say, after so many years of not knowing, I am love, and I know love, and you are love, and together that love is stronger. So I ask the question that I ask so often, are you ready? How are you going to show up? And what is the energy you're going to put out? What are you going to practice? Above everything else, what are you going to practice without reservation? What is the title of your next chapter? I know. I'm but one ripple, but you're another one. And everybody in this room is another one. And everybody in our tribe is another one. And everybody that everybody knows in the tribe is another one. Together in our tribe, we have over 2,000 ripples. And as this tribe shares those ripples, we know how it works. Those ripples spread out. And suddenly the ripples of love drown out the anger. The ripples of love quiet the voices of hate. The ripples of love overcome the division and ignite the energy of love that we all carry. One thing I want you to know. We may not know much, but we know love. And with that, we have all that we need to succeed. So think about how that feels to you. Perhaps it resonated with you. I think it did. Maybe you need to sit with it for a little while. That's okay. But what I do ask you to do is to challenge the doubts, to let go of the fear, to don't think that you're not ready. You are ready. If not now, when? If not you, who? I appreciate all your faces staying with me for all this time. I'm not a preacher, although I seem like I might have been preaching there for a little bit. I just wanted somebody to yell out, preach, preach. Anyway, so, all right. That's my message for the end of this year, and that'll be my message and my ongoing theme for the year ahead. I don't know much, but I know love. That could be a good song, too. I'm going to ask Sam to write me a song. And maybe by the end of next year, I'll be ready to sing it. Anyway, so I'm going to pause right here and end this recording. Thank you all.